It's intermission time. It's great to get out to the movies.
Okay, so I'm Megan Braun. I'm the host of the Synagogue podcast Intermission, and today I have a directing duo for Novocaine, Robert Olsen and Dan Berk. Can you two intro yourself, how you describe yourself? You're a directing duo.
I'm Dan Berk.
And I'm Bobby Olsen.
And these
are our two voices.
We are a writing and directing duo, and we're best friends.
Yeah. Are you really?
Yeah.
That's
we
cute.
We were randomly assigned roommates at NYU.
Okay.
Freshman year.
I love that. My dad went to NYU.
Oh, great.
Yeah, go Violets.
Here we go.
Let's go. Actually, they're Bobcats now. Or did they go back to Violets?
No, we were Bobcats, now we're Violets.
Thank God.
Unless they went back to Bobcats. And
Why
no one
would you
told me.
change?
I think
How
it was
weird.
Violets, and
I
then
don't
I
know.
think it was Violets for a long time. It became Bobcats because they maybe wanted something more aggressive sounding, and then everyone revolted.
What's
because
important
Violets
is
so
that
cool.
we are the dominant sports college in the United States of
That's
America.
right. We went to a basketball game once during
was
our
so
time
sad.
at NYU, and it was the saddest thing in the world. I'm so bad at all sports,
Yeah.
and I was like, I could probably take this, guys.
funny.
This is bad. But yeah, we met when we were 18 years old, and
Wait,
it
this
was
is
we were
a
just
cool
like,
origin story.
It is. Well, just because of the chance and the fate of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, the like old lady working at the NYU bursar's office who selected us, we owe her a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we became best friends, and then we didn't start writing and certainly not directing together for many years after that, which we think is probably a lot of why our partnership works, because
Definitely.
we have that foundation. You look at a lot of directing partnerships, whether it's in film or TV, and it's a lot of brothers, because
Siblings.
or siblings,
yeah.
right. And it's because they have that like just sort of bedrock trust, and you can like get in creative arguments, but you know that you're not going to like destroy the relationship because like it's your family.
Yeah.
So we're operating at a disadvantage, not being brothers by blood, but to make up for that shortcoming, we have like 2 decades of best friendship.
Yeah, which again, you kind of need, at least we think, to work in the most efficient way possible. Just because, if you're not, if you don't have that foundational relationship, I think you have to kind of handle each other a little bit more lightly
Totally.
and be like, I love this idea you had, but
Yeah.
but we're like, no, that sucks. Let's do this, blah blah blah. And, you just have like an
That's so
open,
important.
honest conversation about stuff. And I think that when there's two people writing one thing, you're always going to get into creative arguments here and there. And so you have to have a lot of foundation so that none of those arguments ever scratch the surface of, the like bedrock of the partnership,
Valid. That makes complete sense. Anything in a creative field, I feel like you really have to. Obviously, your skin's in the game because it's like your heart and everything, your creativity. But you also have to be able to like take the heat and give each other feedback.
So yeah, we have a movie coming out in a little less than a week called Novocaine. It comes out everywhere, all over the country and the world, March 14th. It stars Jack Quaid. It's an action comedy about a guy who can't feel pain.
And it's just a great time at the movies, and you should see it in a theater because it's you need to have somebody next to you to like grab onto.
Yeah, it's a really good like throwback theatrical experience, and we guarantee you will have such a good time. And if you don't, you can send us a scan of your ticket stub and we'll pay you your $15. But
And we'll get into the movie more
fine.
later.
Sure.
Yeah.
My next question for you guys, we ask this on every episode. It's a little tricky, so you might have to think outside the box. But if you were to pick a movie that describes where you're at in your life currently, what would it be?
Immediately an idea came into my head.
Okay.
Because of how just completely fucking chaotic everything is right now, which is either like Uncut Gems or Good Time, but not
something
in like
directed by the
not,
Safdies.
Not, something
crazy
Safdie
right
related.
now.
Not because we're gonna like do 1,000 doses of liquid acid, but it's just like the last few. Obviously, we're in the midst of a release right now. Our movie comes out in like less than 7 days, but because of that. We've been doing nonstop press for 2 weeks. Like we've been in different cities every weekend. It's just been, we haven't been like, sleeping that much, and we've just been on really strange schedules. And obviously press is kind of particularly draining, especially when you're doing like junkets. And we're not complaining. It's amazing.
Complain.
It's
I
like
love to complain.
It's such a blessing to have a movie, to have made a movie, to have a movie that is a major studio is putting out. But it is very tiring. And like I have 2 kids. My wife is pregnant. She's
that's
due
a lot going on.
She's due in April, so it's like this movie's gonna come out, a baby's gonna come out a little bit after that. So I just feel like my brain is being pulled in like 1,000 directions every day. But I love it. It's great.
No, that's a good call. I think I would say like. like Almost Famous or a Nora or something,
Yeah.
where like I feel like we are just all of a sudden in this other tier. All like there, we've made movies before, but it's never been like this, where we've never had a wide release. We've never seen a billboard for our movie that's like
And they're
next
everywhere.
to where we live. It's
They're
yeah, and so
everywhere.
there is
So
a little
surreal.
bit of that, and we're not, we don't like come from money or film families or whatever, and so like to just all of a sudden be at that level. I mean, it's been a lot of work to get here, but it's kind of this telescoping thing where once it starts to go, all of a sudden it goes really fast. Like Ludacris came to our friends and family
Luda.
screening. Like it was like he literally like saw the trailer and was like, I want to see that movie, and then like showed up to the screening, and like I just remember seeing him and being like, what is happening? Like
is
how
so
did
funny.
we get
That was
here?
last night. We're less than 24 hours out from a Ludacris encounter, which
so good.
was incredible. He's like so nice and
It was-
sweet
oh, it was
and
awesome.
cerebral,
It was
and
awesome.
it was amazing. Hopefully he liked the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, I
it's-
think that's kind of like where I'm at right now, is just trying to, enjoy this moment, and you still have some of that just like imposter syndrome of standing there and just being like do these people know that like we were like like playing video games in bed in our underwear 15 years ago, and it's just crazy. It's cool though. We're really trying to soak in the moment, because I mean, as you know, it can go up and it can go down and it can go side to side. So we're just trying to ride the wave while we're here.
That's good. Both of you had such quick answers. I'm very impressed. That was great.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like
That's great.
My brain is tired, but that one just came quickly.
For sure.
So I wanted to touch on the other films you two have worked on as a duo. I have here Villains that came out in 2019, and then Significant Other in 2022. And both, well, the first one, Villains, has Bill Skarsgård and Maika Monroe, and then the second, Maika Monroe and Jake Lacey. I love Maika Monroe. I'm like, that's such a cool star to have in multiple films of yours.
I mean, we are the biggest Maika Monroe fans in the world. When we were writing Villains, we, had just seen It Follows, and we were
Incredible.
just obsessed with her, and we were like, she is so perfect for this. Like, and we wanted to try and get her at the time, but she was just like impossible to get. She was doing like about Independence Day 2 was about to come out and all these things and blah blah blah.
The Fifth Wave.
Yeah,
She was in
exactly.
all
these
these
big
huge
franchisey
tentpole movies.
things, and so we were like, oh, there's no chance. But then it took a couple of years to get that movie going, and by the time we were getting it going, those big tentpole she was in were not gigantic hits or whatever, and like those things as an actor are outside of your control, you know, and so all of a sudden she was like kind of maybe in a tier that we could hope to maybe reach, and so we sent the script to her, and she loved it and came on, and it was incredible, but we didn't tell her that we that we were like had seen her. And
Yeah,
It Follows
you gotta
and been
play it
thinking of
cool.
her. Yeah, it wasn't
tried.
until like the
It's not
end of
easy
the
for
shoot
us.
that we were like, we've been obsessed with you the whole time. You know what I mean?
That's
But
funny.
yeah, she is such an unbelievable actor. Like just her chops, I'm almost like, I'm really excited because obviously you get pigeonholed into this kind of scream queen thing or whatever. So that happens to a lot of like, young actors that are women. And I think that she like is so much more than that. Not that she isn't perfect as that. She's great as that. And she's been in so many classic horror movies, and that's an incredible legacy that she already has. But I'm really excited for this next chapter of her career, because I think she's like like we know from experience that she is an A+ like actor.
That's
Like she just doesn't take any time to get into a really emotional state. I think a lot of actors, rightfully so, have to go to the trailer and like listen to music for a while and like get in the zone before they have to do like a scene where they're crying, for instance. But she just like, she shows up to set and just goes and they never need, and if something gets messed up in the take, she's not like yelling at like one of the grips because they got in her eye line. She's just like, okay, great, we'll do it again, and then boom, she can just do it again, and it just has a great attitude the whole time, like never flubs a line even once. She's just so technically perfect.
She's also really funny, which was the fun thing on
That's
Villains,
cool.
because with both Bill and her, nobody has really let them be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, Maika, all of her most popular movies, of which I don't count villains because obviously she has much more popular movies, are all her I mean, like Longlegs, she is like
it's so
dour and just
Dour's
and
a
it's
good word.
and it's awesome.
Yeah,
she
it's
still
great.
does an amazing job in that movie. It's a great movie or whatever. But like she's not like cracking jokes. In
no,
that. Same thing with
and Bill
Follows
and
stuff.
Bill is the same way. Like he is so incredibly charming, and his comedic sensibilities and his like story sense. Like he did so many things in Villains that are like our favorite moments in the movie, little weird mannerisms and tics that he does, like physical things, were just his idea. He was just like, why don't I try this? And we were like, that's the funniest thing that's in the movie. But then he obviously ends up playing, Pennywise and Count
He's so
Orloff or
talented
whatever.
as
And, and so he's a little bit, I won't say cursed because he's obviously very blessed, but like he's cursed having this very sort of like graphic look to him, so that he gets cast as these like antagonists who have to have these really defined aesthetics.
It's kind of like the Willem Dafoe situation.
Yes, exactly.
Sure,
Yeah. Willem Dafoe is the same way, who's
but I
also
think-
really funny.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a great point with Willem Dafoe because like then you see him, you're so used to he's just like the Green Goblin and all these like scary things and it's just all these like really dark like, Antichrist and all these like really darker things and then he's also like in the Florida Project and he's like the nicest
That's
guy.
a great example.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like and so I think
You're waiting for him in that movie to do something
I know.
fucked up or creepy because you're like,
what's
this
he gonna
is
do to these
so-
kids?
Yeah.
in a shitty
It's really
motel?
interesting casting. I remember watching that movie and being like, that's so cool
Yeah.
that he just gets to be so sweet.
But he was somebody who, we really badly wanted that character to be like this throwback, early Johnny Depp, like River Phoenix-y, kind of like heartthrobby thing. And like we wanted him to be like Bobby Briggs in Twin Peaks and just like this cool, like, lanky, handsome guy. And when we were trying to find that actor, because they had to be like goofy and lovable too, a lot of times you'd get like one or the other, where you'd have somebody who was like physically right, like, like lanky and handsome and all this stuff, but wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Or that was really funny, but was like short and like not what we're looking for. You know what I mean? And so when we were pitched him by our producer, Alan Mandelbaum, who was a genius for the suggestion, we were like, I don't know. I mean, what is he? He's like kind of the sexy werewolf guy. Like, what is it? You know what I mean? And then we like zoomed with him and he was so charming and funny and cool. And we were like, oh my God, like he can do this. And so
those are always amazing experiences.
Yeah.
Like when you are going into something thinking this isn't going to work, and like 5 minutes later on the Zoom, both of us, we don't even have to talk about it. We can just tell.
that's such
We're
a
like,
cool
oh, we're
thing
casting
too.
this guy.
Like where it's just obvious.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
some people just have. I mean, it's part of being like a movie star. There are very, very good actors that aren't necessarily like movie stars.
Yeah.
But like a movie star is a special kind of human being that is like doing something with pheromones or I don't know
Yeah.
what, but they can, whether it's through Zoom or in person, you just can like
It's charisma.
you're magnetized to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bill definitely had that. But either way, they're both really funny. Maika's so funny, and we hope that she gets a chance to do more funny stuff. Didn't she attach to something big like right after Longlegs with the Hand That Rocks the Cradle remake or a reboot or whatever
Something
they're doing?
like that. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I don't know, but hopefully she gets to just totally break out of that. And she loves horror movies. I
Yeah.
mean, we've had so many dinners with Maika, like talking all about
For sure.
her career and everything, and she really, really loves horror. They're
That's
her
cool.
favorite type of movie, so it serves to reason that she might stay in that space
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit.
not like she's a
She's trapped.
hostage in this
Yeah,
genre.
right.
I think she loves doing that. But I just think that as she, I'm just really interested to see her like, age into like different roles.
Yeah.
You know,
and
I want
Longlegs was like the start of that. 'cause
exactly.
that was
yeah,
not
it
like
feels
a
like a
high
more
school
adult.
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, you're like this FBI agent.
Right.
Like exactly.
But it is funny, when somebody tries to branch out and it doesn't work, and you just kind of keep going back to what does. It's like if
Sure.
she does branch out and doesn't work, like at least there's always horror there for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we always talk about like Richard Donner is like a director we really like, and like he obviously directed like the Lethal Weapon franchise, and he kept wanting to go and do other shit, Radio Flyer and all these other passion projects in between, and ultimately like none of those ended up being successful from a box office standpoint. So it's like, Warner
what you
Brothers
know.
would call him back
Yeah.
and be like, You want to come make another
How about
$25 million?
Lethal Weapon? Yeah.
Make Lethal Weapon 3 or that 4, whatever it is, and it's like he just kept going back, and his career is defined by that. That's like his legacy, which we think is great, and we love, and it's just funny sometimes people can't or are unwilling to lean into the thing that's working that they're clearly so good
Yeah.
at, you know?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I'm sure there's a lot of things that cause that, you know, especially as a filmmaker and maybe as an actor too. You think to yourself after a while, like, well, I should be doing serious stuff. You know,
Yeah.
every director goes through that. Like Spielberg, you know, it like famously is like directs Jurassic Park and then goes right to Schindler's List after and is posting Jurassic Park while he's shooting Schindler's List and feels like such an idiot because he's like doing this like incredibly heavy, like real important work, and then at night goes and like does VFX approvals on dinosaurs, and he didn't know it was going to be what it was. You know, so it's like it's just
it is funny to
thing.
like look at it and be like, yeah, he, you know, it's just like here's Ready Player One and here's Amistad, and like you know, it's just like basically the same movie. But yeah, no,
we haven't gotten to that point in our careers yet. We don't need to make serious movies.
We're not
yet.
there yet. Although like some of those little Donner side pieces are pretty sweet. Like Inside Moves is just like a really cool little movie that like I feel like no one ever saw, and it's just like a you know, just this quiet story.
Well, and that was right
small.
after Superman, right?
Yeah, and so like, you know, it's like I don't know. I love those kind of aberrative movies that directors make.
But it is an insane choice. Because that was Superman was the most successful, the highest budget movie of all time at that point, and I think the most successful from a box office standpoint.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm gonna go do like the tiniest,
That
like
is,
little trifle
that's
of
cool.
an indie like, ever.
Yeah, well,
But,
and it's sort of like the Pete's Dragon ghost story thing too.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of that, but like, but yeah, I mean, I that's what they call in basketball a heat check.
Yeah.
Where like he was just like really cooking with Superman. He's like, I'm gonna go out there do
Wait,
inside
earlier
moves.
you said you're not a sports person. Are you a sports person?
Yeah,
for
he's
what
very
he
much a
lacks
sports
in
person.
sports
That's
person,
funny.
I
We
make
average
up
out
for
in many
sports
ways.
person.
Bobby is
Yeah.
a sports fanatic, and that's
Okay.
really helpful often on you know, on various projects or in meetings. You
Yeah.
know, it'll come
The
up.
analogies.
And
exactly.
he's super sports fanatic. I'm not. I have 2, soon to be 3 kids. Bobby is childless by
Zippo.
choice.
Okay, I love
Uh,
it.
Hence my ability to watch sports.
That's exactly right. So it's like it is he's sober. I drink. Like we have different perspectives
like
on these
it.
things, and
I
it
like
allows
that.
us to like, you know, attack from 2 sides
yeah, yeah.
sometimes on
That's cool.
creative
Dan has
questions.
like 2 drinks a week. He's not,
Yeah,
he's
right.
not like Nick Cage and leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, I wouldn't
He's
say
like,
that.
I have a problem.
That doesn't define my personality, but I am willing to drink
I think it
alcohol.
defines my personality.
It did in my 20s, but I'm older.
Oh
now.
yeah, those are good times.
Okay, now I want to get into. I have a little section dedicated to just get to know your movie taste in general. Something I was thinking about as I was driving here, but now you've kind of answered it, was the concept of having a directing duo. I'm like, do you just like sit down and talk about your taste? But I guess you guys had all that groundwork of years of friendship to like you knew what each other's movies tastes
It's
were and what
pretty
you
much
liked.
the same taste.
Yeah. And so
That's
just,
why it works. Really.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, so I want to hear like what directors you guys are drawn to, what genres, like what are your type of movies?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think like the first stuff that we bonded on, and it took us 5 features to get back to this, but were like classic action movies. You know, we both went to Tisch at NYU, and I feel like I think we both felt this way, but I always felt kind of like an outsider taste wise because everyone there was just having like a contest of who could be more pretentious,
Totally.
and who could be more of a completist with their, you know, with their Truffaut Blu-ray collections and shit. And I was just like, I didn't grow up in a film family. Like I wasn't exposed to any of this at all. And then you get to film school and you're surrounded by people who, you know, whose parents for whatever reason were showing them, you know,
Yeah, like 400 blows.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
shit
And
like
it was
the
just like
Decalogue,
and I was
stuff.
already like, I can't even catch up
Yeah.
with these people. Like I can try, but holy shit. And then Bobby and I met, and it was like, oh, okay, thank God. There's
Yeah.
like a real person here.
I was like,
who's-
you want to go watch Commando?
yeah, totally. Well, Commando was one of the first ones we really bonded on.
Yep.
Just like fun blockbuster action stuff, and I think that like of course and it's funny because a lot of these movies that we bonded on initially were sort of spiritual references for Novocaine, but you know, like McTiernan movies like Die Hard and Predator and like Midnight Run, like Breast is definitely a big touch point for us. Like movies where, you know, they deliver on action and on spectacle, but action movies back then used to be built like character out, and you would have very relatable protagonists that weren't like secretly an assassin or like, they are a gardener, but really they were in like Mossad or whatever, and you don't find out until 20 minutes into the movie. And would have long, luxurious first acts where you'd get to meet the character and their family, like Air Force One. You don't meet, the hijacking doesn't take place till 25 minutes in. And so, like, I think movies like that got us very excited. And then, it was only a matter of time before we were like, okay, maybe we want to make those movies together.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot about like that's why we said Richard Donner earlier too, like because he is somebody who I feel like always just was thinking about the audience and like what does as opposed to some other, auteur directors who it's about them in a way, where like they're making the movie as a flex or something like that. And that's not to say that those movies are bad or that we hate it. Like I love those films and I've grown to love those films. But I think like early on, we were in terms of like what do I want to watch on like a deserted island, Terminator 2, you know what I mean? Like of course, like that's what we had the most fun watching as kids and what we want to be making, and I have like I love watching, films that are so unlike things that we're trying to make. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a huge I loved like Tar so much, and I've watched it like 6 times. But I would never want to make that movie.
Totally.
Not never want to, but I don't know that we ever would, or that we're just not those kinds of exactly. We're just I feel like we're not the like just these like genius visionary Oscar director, at least not in that way, you know what I mean?
We're idiots.
Yeah, exactly. We are the common clay of the new West.
Very lucky idiots.
Exactly.
I know, but I think, and those are obviously older directors. I think in a contemporary way, like guys like Rian Johnson are certainly doing stuff that feels really, really good to us. We
love watching his progression from his movie, and you go and it's like, and it's brick and it's and like it just slowly gets up to this big blockbuster place. And I think, that's what we want to be making. I think that there's like, there's kind of 2 different camps of filmmakers. I think there's like this sort of, the filmmakers who are going to be, get a Criterion collection of their work and stuff like that. And there's filmmakers who are trying to, make movies that a lot of people see, And so I think that, and you have like, it's always a balance, like the more that your film is this artistic expression of yourself and this really personal story that only you can tell, and like strange and not, not formulaic and all those things, like, it's almost like the less people see it, and then on the other hand, if you want to make a big studio movie, well, now you're working with a studio and you have to, and they're going to rein you in or whatever, and all of a sudden that art dial is going to get turned down.
Well, and your themes have to be more broadly palatable. Like if that's what we say. It's like if we wanted to, if we're both like bleeding heart progressives and want to help the world as much as we can. And we make these movies, whatever. It's not like we're, Mother Teresa or something. But if we want to affect positive change on the world through our work, like Bobby said, we want as many people to see it as possible, which means you need to sort of figure out more palatable themes.
Yeah, I think we'd rather find a way to like try to shoehorn our ideas into a bigger kind of movie that more people are going to see, rather than, make the passion project that is exactly what we want artistically that less people are going to see. And I think that might change in the future. You know what I mean? Like, I think that if we had, part of it too is that we're still at that point where we're just trying to survive still, like we're not rich, or anything but. Like, I think, you don't like, it's a tough industry to make money in and survive in, and so I think that a lot of times like directors can get to that later point where they get their blank check, you know what I mean, where like they've done enough stuff and then it's like, okay, now you can go do whatever you want and you can go and do that passion. But right now we're still like, what's the next thing going to be? Like, how are we going to feed our families? You know what I mean? And so I feel like until that part is over, it's hard to start thinking about the little passion-y things. But, you know, we do have a couple things cooking for when we finally have a second to take a break and make like
once things calm down a bit.
Exactly, but we're having a lot of fun doing this studio thing right now, and I think it's something that comes naturally to us because it's a more collaborative process. Obviously we started off in the indie world, and you have so much more control as a director when you're dealing with like a sub $2 million budget. There's just, it's not as high a stakes for the financiers and stuff. And so they're kind of like, yeah, go ahead and make the movie you want to make. But then when you get into the studio world, well, now you're dealing with you're dozens of people who have thoughts about things and who, frankly, like could fire you, like you're a lot more expendable. But the fact that there's two of us means that we're already so used to collaboration that I think it's kind of an environment that we thrive in.
That's good.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say?
No,
something?
I was just gonna say I feel like your question of like the films that we bonded on, we only like half answered.
Oh, yeah.
Also, just stuff that's super foundational to like the makeup of what we like certainly the Coen brothers, like our tonal thing that I think has become like our, if you wanted to say, calling card that people think of us for, like the executives around town, if they have a certain project or an idea, if they're calling us, it's because they want some little sort of left of center tone. And certainly I think the Coen brothers are a gigantic one. There's a little glimmer of Tarantino.
And I think that sort of thing that, it's north of reality, south of farce is where we like to live, and I think you see in Novocaine that we're having fun with it. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be this hyper realistic kind of movie. It's like Fargo is a great example. The way the characters can crack jokes. It's a fantastic show. Fargo, the TV show, and the movie are
that's like my favorite.
Yes, same. It's absolutely stunning. And that's what we're talking about when you watch that.
What we love about one of our top fours. I don't know. I don't know who's.
Well, I think the thing that we love so much about the Coen brothers and specifically Fargo is the hint of the supernatural, and I feel like it's
the fringe of the world.
It's something that they do where, I think A Serious Man's like that too, where it's kind of like, it's almost as if like a higher power exists in that universe because of the way that fate works and the way that, evil people get comeuppance at different times and just this idea of like, being, I think a lot of the seasons of Fargo have like literal, supernatural things that wind up happening. But we love that when there's just a little sense of there's something bubbling there. It's not super explicit. You're not saying that this is like some ghost movie or where we're like talking about that in any explicit terms. But obviously like Barton Fink, you're like, oh, this is like this cool Faustian thing going on. What's going on here? This is like real. This guy's like the devil. Like, wow, and so we love that, and that's something that we try to lace into things if we can.
Well, speaking of Novocaine, let's go into that portion of this. So I have a little summary that's just like what's online. So Novocaine, when the girl of his dreams gets kidnapped, a man turns his inability to feel pain into an unexpected advantage as he fights a bunch of thugs to get her back. That's a funny description.
You always, the descriptions online, I'm like, half of them at this point are AI. Yeah. Wait, what movie was it that we saw the description? Oh yeah, it was Hellraiser. And it was like, it didn't even mention the puzzle box. Yeah. It was the most bizarre description, and it was definitely AI. I mean, these things are all being slowly taken over and rewritten by AI. I know, I hate it. All the Amazon synopses are always bizarre beyond belief.
This is a tangent, but I used to work in fashion, like in-house. Sure. I do graphic design, but they started like while I was working there for ads and stuff, they would put our sweater, it was a cashmere brand, they'd put our sweaters on like fake models. But then like on Google, if you look up like our sweaters, and it's for a lot of brands. Yeah. But then it's weird because it doesn't notice if it's like a female sweater or male sweater, like how the fit is. Yeah. So like a really cropped sweater would be like on a man's body and it just is off. It looks
and then
so
it's
weird.
Useless.
Yeah.
Why are you showing me a photo that's not a real thing?
I just didn't know that was a thing until working there and looking at the ads.
Oh yeah. You may as well well have drawn in crayon an
Like, this
illustration
is
of
a
a
sweater,
sweater. And
yeah.
like, that's a sweater.
We're at that point in human history where like we have like where AI like technically exists, but it doesn't do anything cool yet.
Yeah.
There's no like robots walking around like serving you beers. It's just really shitty like ads and stuff of
Wait,
people with 6 fingers and a bunch of like graphic designers out of work. It's
Yeah,
just like
it's horrible.
The shitty part of
Don't
this.
even get us started on this because we'll talk about it for an hour. But what you just said just reminded me. I went to my kids have really wanted to. We go to sushi like every week, and they wanted to go to one of the ones where the sushi comes around
sushi
on a
boat?
conveyor belt thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we went to one in the like Glendale Galleria the other day because we were near there, and for whatever reason, there's tons of waiters, but robots bring your drinks out.
Weird.
So it's like this weird little robot that comes out on wheels, and it turns around, and like your drinks are like on a shelf. But they were all fucking up beyond belief. They brought our waters. I got one water off the thing, and it turned and started going away. These two
It just
women
grabs your daughter and
yeah,
like, leaves.
these two women ordered Diet Cokes on the next table. The robot came over, spun before they could take it. It spun away and started going away. And one of them tried to reach this Coke spilled. I'm like, we're not ready for robots.
Oh
That's
my
so
God.
funny.
It was amazing. I was like, this is
Oh.
a scene that we need to put in something. It's so stupid.
Okay, well, this is something I wanted to say. So this movie, it's like he is someone who doesn't feel pain, right? So like the premise of the movie, there's gonna be like knives and blood and all this stuff, and I'm such a squeamish person, so I was like, oh no. Like, what is the threshold for someone who can watch this movie? You know what I mean? Like, who do you think this movie's for? Also, when they leave the movie, how do you want them to feel?
Well, sure. Well, it's funny because we've gotten we're finally showing the movie to people. Like starting last Saturday was our first public screening. We were in Austin and we showed it to several crowds. And then every night this week there's been screenings, and now a lot of people have seen it, and we've gotten really consistent feedback from, it'll be like a guy and he sees it with his wife and he's like, my wife usually hates these types of movies. She doesn't like violence, but she loved this one. Like we've heard that like 10 times in the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I think it's, to your question, I think that because all of the violence, while the gore is very grisly, it's all contextualized by this humor and this heart and like a really full-throated love story. It's not like we're just sort of paying lip service to say there's romance in the movie, which some action movies do. Like it is actually a really sweet rom-com for the first 25 minutes.
It totally
of the movie.
is.
And the thing is, like, when those gory moments happen and when there's those borderline body horror things going on, because it's not affecting Jack in a painful way,
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier to watch. You know,
Totally.
like he's not like Giovanni Ribisi being gut shot and Saving Private Ryan and like calling out for his mother. You know what I mean? He can't feel it. So it's a different thing. I think if a regular person were to break a bone, you'd be like, oh God, no. And then that's really hard to watch. And I think people would eventually be like, okay, this
that's
is
like-
torture porn.
yeah.
I want to get out of here, but because we're having fun with it, I think most people who might have a low threshold, it gets bumped up a bit. There's still going to be stuff that
Totally.
you're watching through your fingers and stuff like that, but that's also half the fun of it. And what makes it so fun to see in a theater is that, like, obviously you get like laughs and all that stuff, but you also get these moments of like, no, and people
Totally.
like screaming and stuff. So
That
it's
was
really
actually
fun.
a real, I won't say concern, but question for us when we were like prepping the movie and taking our pass on the script and everything. We were like, this whole thing kind of relies on the premise that, like mirror synapses are not like an essential element in the audience reacting here. Like he's not going to make faces or wince or squeal when he gets hurt. So will the audience just be like, I don't feel anything.
Yeah, I
just
don't
like
care.
him.
Yeah.
And that would mean that the whole thing fell apart because the whole idea is we are like soliciting, cringes. And if you're not like, then we've failed. And then we always watch tons of movies in prep, and we were watching Eastern Promises, and at one point there's like a frozen cadaver, if you remember, and like he cuts a finger off of the cadaver, and we were like, oh.
But yeah,
and
that's
then we
a
looked at
good-
each other and we were like, oh fuck, it works. This is great.
That's
That
smart.
guy's
Because it's a
dead. He
dead body.
definitely
Yeah,
doesn't
it's like
smart.
if a dead body makes us cringe when physical, violence is inflicted upon it, then surely a living, breathing Jack Quaid will
That's a good
solicit the
analogy.
response. So
Well-
yeah, I'm sorry, but wait, my part two to just turn the tables
Yeah.
on you. So I mean, how did you feel if you're someone who's squeamish with violence? Was it too much for you, or do you?
That's a good question. through doing this podcast, I've always loved movies, but now I'm like, I'm watching a lot of movies.
Sure.
And so my threshold in general has gone up. Like I'm watching way more horror than I ever have.
Sure.
And now I actually love horror.
Yeah, it's very fun.
But no, it was just like a lot of gasping. Like I was definitely the most like reactive one in my screening.
That's great. We love that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like a very like exhilarating watch. And it also has kind of tell me if this is giving anything away. It kind of has like a false ending. Should I not say that? Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, you mean like you
sure.
think it's ending in the
Yeah.
auto body
And then
shop,
there's
and then
Do you
there's
not
like a
think
double
of it
cross?
that way?
No,
we
do, and we
absolutely
love
do.
those.
Yeah.
We love
Yeah.
like in like do you see Prey?
Yes.
Which
yes,
also stars Amber
yes.
Mid-Thunder, but like that movie has like 3 climaxes, and we were like we got to see it on the big screen. Unfortunately, most people didn't. It just came out on Hulu or something, but we saw it on the big screen at the DGA Theater, and like we were like it's another climax. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
the
and
horse
that's something that
circling
we
thing was the
love
end.
when movies do. You know, like I think The Lost World does that, where like you kind of think the movie's over, and then it's like, no, now we're gonna have this like one last T-Rex sequence. Like I think that like True Lies is like that, where you're like, okay, we're done. Like, nope, not quite. We're gonna have one more back over here. And I we tried to make you think that it's gonna be over. A lot of that has to do with like score. You have the score be like, da-na-na, the movie's ending.
Yeah.
And that before we kick it into another gear for a little bit more. And so that was we had a lot of fun with that, just because we love it when movies do that.
Another thought I had while watching this was because there was a lot of like things happening to him, I bet there was like a big portion of this was either like practical effects, like makeup and all of that. And like specifically, I don't know if the scene is in the trailer, but his hand going into the
Yes,
pot.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, how was it having to work with all that effects in the mix, and does it kind of break up the filming? What is that like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's something that we obviously have had experience with like gross prosthetics and stuff, having done a lot of like, horrors and thrillers and things like that. But this is just on another level because it was in every scene. Usually you're making a horror movie and there's the one big crazy part, or like maybe there's a few of them or something, but in this, like he was carrying that damage throughout the movie.
There had to be like a lot of what's that word when you need consistency throughout something?
Continuity.
Yeah, exactly. And so continuity was a huge part of what we did. And so Clinton, our incredible special effects makeup designer, he would come in and he had this 3D map of Jack's entire body.
Wow.
And so he would put out these like 6 different heads of like this gray version of Jack's head, and each one would be like, okay, this is what he looks like at the beginning of the movie. Here's what he looks like after the first fight scene, the second fight scene, the third fight scene, et cetera,
It's like
et
the
cetera.
swelling, all sculpted.
Yeah,
and
and so
stuff.
it's all on there, and so we could kind of go and be like, okay, let's move. Like, is there a way we can move this scar to that part, or like, this is going to be a little too gnarly. We don't want to have him carrying that for the whole movie. Like, so maybe we save that for this other fight. And so, you had to plot out where you go, because as much as we try to shoot everything in continuity order, that's never going to happen. And so you have to know exactly what he's going to look like. You can't, it's not like one of those things where you can figure it out on the fly. Like, here's what he looked like in this. Now we're going to make him look like that in the next one. We had to know exactly what we were doing. And so that was definitely a huge part of it. And yes, the prosthetics themselves were a huge, I don't want to say they were a pain in the ass, because we built them we knew that this movie was a prosthetic heavy movie, and so the schedule was built around that. We had a great AD, Justin Muller, who made sure of that, and so we were always planning for it. But it's definitely tough, and it's tough on the actors, Jack especially, because he had to be in that chair every day like that. After he burns his hand, he's wearing like this latex burnt hand thing over his hand for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And so like that thing just like it doesn't breathe. Like,
yeah,
your
it's not
hands
like
all
a
sweaty in
consumer
there.
product like you worked in fashion. It's
Yeah.
not something that's been like tested and made sure that it would be comfortable to wear. It is like a hot, heavy fucking glove.
They do their best with all that, and it's obviously like made of
Totally.
materials that aren't gonna, hopefully not gonna make you break out or something. But it's just very uncomfortable to have to wear, and so he was just such a. I mean, I don't know. He has like the patience of a saint. He's like just the absolute nicest person. And
Well, and those the full body tattoos
Oh my
too.
God.
Like
Oh
obviously,
yeah, I forgot.
those only-
That
That was the
cool.
hard- that was
a
the hardest
cool
part.
reveal.
yeah, those
Yeah,
only
thanks.
played like I don't think maybe on 4 days or something of our 44-day schedule, like the full body thing. But that's like 15 pieces that have to sort of be put on him very precisely.
It took hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and
It looks sick. I
there
was
was-
like, what a good look.
Yeah, no, it is sick. I know. Well, we got matching
Oh,
tattoos.
cute.
Bobby's is up on his
Yeah.
arm, but it looks
I know,
exactly like
mine's-
this.
That's
Piece
really
of
cute.
Cherry
There.
pie with the Table Mountain silhouette in there because we shot in Cape Town. But the first time, so that they had to like sort of iterate through a testing process to bring the time down for like the application because we needed to make sure it
Oh,
could get on
wow.
him in like 2 hours. Otherwise, like you can't have the first test though took 8 hours again. Then they got it down to 6, and then they, and it was like we were
Holy
like, I hope they
shit.
get this thing down because the working day is only 10 hours, and you can pre-call your actors a little bit, but like there's
Oh, yeah.
turnover issues, your turnaround issues. You want to make sure that they have energy and that they're not. It's like we couldn't like take 8 hours to apply it and then ask them to work for 10 hours.
Well, and like even those times, like that he had to do it for the 8 hours or whatever it was, like that is a mental grind. That is like torturous to
Yeah.
lay there. And you have to imagine like you cannot move
Yeah.
because
and there's 4 people touching your body.
Yeah, that's
like,
wild.
constantly.
like touching your torso the whole time. And you just, you're sitting there listening to headphones, like trying to like listen to music and put yourself somewhere else. But it's like being in surgery and being awake for it
Yeah.
while all these people are standing around
It's a
you.
low grade form of torture.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
so for the fact that he never like cracked
Snapped,
it was
yeah.
just a testament to his patience.
If you could describe Novocaine in 3 words, how would you describe it?
No, 3 words is tough. We got this question in Austin this weekend, and somebody in one sentence, and we just thought Nathan Kane can't feel pain, which is like the marketing tagline.
Oh,
but we
yeah.
thought it was so smart of marketing because
It
it's like
is.
the concept is right there.
Yeah.
But that's not. Well, that's
No,
3.
that.
That's 3 words plus two proper nouns. So.
Yeah, right. There's some stuff in there.
Also, real quick, I do want to say the marketing, like the poster. I always am like a
We're-
sucker for posters.
Yes,
It's
us
so
too.
good.
We're in
Dude.
love with the poster.
It's
like,
so good. I wish I
that-
came up with it.
That
Oh,
was
yeah.
the coolest part of this whole marketing, like campaign rollout thing, was when we got the poster options. A very exciting day for any filmmaker or poster junkie, seeing all these options. And of course, there were a couple that were like the stacked head posters that you would expect from a studio film. And we assumed, they would make us go in those directions. But there were also some really cool. I mean, the one we ended up with, the Operation Illustrated
It's
one,
so
Yeah.
was
sick.
our favorite.
and
there
even
were,
the other ones, they had these cool like North by Northwest-esque posters.
yeah, very
It
like
was,
Saul Bassy
Yeah.
options and
Like-
like really
I
cool
just
shit.
that's funny. I just bought a Saul Bass book yesterday.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're a graphic designer. So, I mean, that's great. But we were like, I mean, they're never going to let us do the illustrated one. I don't even know why they put it in here. That's like so
Yeah.
mean of them. And then they were like, Mark Weinstock, the head of marketing, likes the illustrated one, and Brian Robbins, the
Cool.
co-chairman of the studio, he likes it. So yeah, we're gonna go with that. And we were like,
Yeah.
sorry, what? This is a wide theatrical release, and you're allowing us to have an illustrated
like a
poster.
full body
It's so
illustrated
sick.
poster.
And then
It's
they
like
did,
a
and, like,
riff
all-
on Operation.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah,
incredible.
they had to actually get
yeah,
like
that's so like
Hasbro's.
my
attack-
vibe. No,
oh
just,
yeah, no,
it's-
totally, no. I mean, us too. It's like we knew that would work for like the cinephile set for sure
it
because
po-
it's just
it
so
pops-
cool.
Yeah, it definitely pops out. Like I think when you see it, there's so many times when you're on, Letterboxd or something where you're looking at multiple thumbnails of different posters, and it's just nice because it always sticks out a
Totally.
little bit.
Or even at like because now we've seen it in a movie theater in the sort of organic setting that it will exist in when it's out, like when you're buying a ticket at a movie theater, which I know nobody does anymore, but they still have like all the little mini posters of your options, and yeah, it's just like everything else feels like it's in the same color palette and is sort of the same a version of the same thing, and it really, really sticks out. And all the marketing has followed that. They've been really brave and audacious with almost all of the marketing materials, and yeah, it's been a dream campaign. It seems like it's been effective, but I guess we'll see. Check back in 10 days
Yeah,
and see if
yeah.
anyone sees the
Exactly.
movie.
I'm doing a this or that segment, and I'm going to say 2 different scenarios, and you have to pick one. And just like it's
And
kind
we'll
of as
just go
quick
back
as
and-
possible.
We'll go back and forth.
Yeah, or like if you can quickly agree. But
Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we've trained. For
Yeah,
this
if you
sort
let
of
us
thing.
huddle for
Okay.
like
Yeah.
1 second, we'll figure it out.
Okay, first we have every movie you watch is 30 minutes too long or 30 minutes too short.
30 minutes too short.
Yeah.
Of course, it's 30 minutes too short.
Yeah, I always want more.
Yeah.
Only watch movies with terrible CGI or only watch movies with distractingly bad acting.
I definitely probably would rather I would rather the terrible CGI, just because there's plenty of older movies that were, in the late 90s, early 2000s when they were like not really super, but where the movie is actually still good. But, but I will say that the bad acting one, if it's bad enough,
it's funny.
I almost like that, like in that Troll 2 kind of so bad it's good way,
That's a tricky one.
I do love those kinds of movies. So that's a tough call.
I find myself pretty impervious to if the CGI is also bad enough. I'm like, all right, they were trying, they didn't have enough money, but let's focus
we've been on that
working.
side of things too. It's hard for us to not be like, somebody's like the CGI sucks, and you're just like, you don't know how hard it is, man.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. It's like maybe they didn't have the money to get the CGI place that you wanted them to have. Yeah.
Valid. Okay, every movie has an out-of-place cameo by Jeff Goldblum, or every movie has an unnecessary narration by Michael Cera.
That's silly. I can't actually. I mean, I obviously love him, but I feel like almost every cameo by Jeff Goldblum feels like out of place but works.
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
one's like almost that. I feel like that's an easy one. Like, I think it would make all the movies better. Is my point.
Yeah, I
Whereas
think
Michael Cera could fuck it up with voiceover. That's not
and it's
necessary.
more that I just don't like voiceover as much as I don't. Michael Cera I like, but I just feel like voiceover in general, or at least a lot of the time, is like kind of annoying.
Okay. Only watch movies with the most predictable endings, or only watch movies with endings that make no sense?
Oh, I don't have any problem with a predictable ending. I think that I think that a lot of times that's what movies are, sometimes if you're, I think that, look, there are certainly some out there where you're I love the ending of like Uncut Gems or something, but a lot of people are turned off by stuff like that, where like a lot of times an unexpected ending is unexpected because, it's something that doesn't feel good. If you're watching a movie, you want the protagonist to win and succeed in some way.
Well, yeah, and it's like I feel like often if you plot everything properly, there is only one way a movie can end, or should end for the types of movies we like to be watching, So I don't necessarily, and of course it could be frustrating if it gets too extreme, but I think let's go with predictable endings.
Yeah, like if the Shawshank Redemption.
So far, that's the only one I disagree with.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay. Only watch silent films with no subtitles, or only watch foreign films with hilariously bad dubbing.
Oof.
I mean, hilariously bad dubbing is really funny. Whenever that is done as a tool, it's very, very funny. But it would suck to be watching a movie that you're trying to connect with emotionally.
Sorry, the first one was what?
Okay.
I think we should go with the first one. Silent films with no subtitles, which is like, whatever.
I feel like
you should be able to tell those stories visually, I think that's fun.
Well, yeah. I feel like most silent films they're silent, so you're gonna get most of the story.
Yeah.
Even the older ones that have the cards that break them up and stuff. There's not a lot of silent films where there's a ton of dialogue and you're reading just all
totally.
the Star Wars scroll between every shot.
There's usually you see like the saloon operator there, and then it's just like cuts to the thing, and it's like, what are you doing here? And you could guess as much.
No, definitely going with that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm
It's
sorry.
a
Back
visual
to the
medium.
last one.
Yeah.
The problem with the ambiguous endings is I feel like sometimes it's beautiful and awesome, and you sit with it for days, and you're like, wow, what did that mean? But a lot of the time too, it's just like they just didn't land the plane properly.
Yeah.
And
No,
there's a thin line between like a strange ending that is completely profound and one that is like you can feel the screenwriter just didn't know how to end it. It was like, we're just ending it like this,
Totally.
and I think sometimes people mistake one for the other, or like
exactly.
I feel like
and that frustrates me, I think, much more than whatever the other option was.
Yeah, like there are weird endings that I fucking love, like the end of like Beau Travail or whatever, where it's just the guy dancing and you didn't see, you're like, what is going, where did this come from? But it just fucking works, and you're like, you somehow get it. I think that I think that ending of Honora was so beautiful, and you didn't see that coming in that way. You know what I mean?
No. I said, of course.
No, I was
Honora's
saying,
like my favorite
the
movie of last
proverbial
year.
audience member doesn't see that coming.
Well, but also,
necessarily.
I wouldn't even categorize that. That, like, to me, that like the ending of that made so much sense.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
I was there with her. It was so touching because I could understand every action that was taking place. I think sometimes when it's you can't place what's going on. It's
Yeah,
frustrating.
and a
Sorry,
good
this was
ending-
supposed to be a lightning round.
No,
game.
no.
We're like taking 15 minutes
know,
for each
I know.
question.
I
It's
can
okay.
keep talking
The
about
next
this
game will
forever.
be more lightning. Okay, I'm gonna do my last quick game. Movie Fight Club, kind of in the vein of Novocaine.
Sure.
I'm gonna name iconic characters, and I want you to pick who would win in a fight. Are we doing it like you just kind of? Okay, I'll say 2 names. You pick one, then that name will then get paired with the next option as we go.
Oh, I
Does
see.
that make sense?
Sure.
A
This is
bracket,
fun.
a bracket,
Yeah.
Bracket.
situation.
A little March Madness thing going. Yeah.
Okay, John Wick or Neo?
I guess if we're in Matrix rules, Neo.
Yeah, I mean that's not close. It's not.
Okay.
Mythologically speaking. Well, where are they fighting? I guess.
But this is supposed to be a lightning round.
Sorry, but like
Let's
they're
just go
fighting
Neo.
in
Let's
the
just go-
Matrix.
let's
there's no
just do
fucking
Neo. Let's
chance.
just
Okay,
do Neo.
Neo or John McClane from Die Hard?
I feel like we're
Maybe
gonna
we,
be
maybe we
saying
should.
Neo
No, you know
a
what?
lot.
Let's not do Neo because he's gonna win all of them. Let's,
This has
let's
happened
do,
in the
let's
past
do John
where
Wick.
I have picked, like, I've done this game with someone who, like, had the one and then it went through every single.
Yeah.
By the way,
well, no,
this
I
is-
mean, let's go. Let's follow our hearts.
This is
and we'll
very
see.
sweet that you're doing this because it's like a Novocaine thing, but I always find this exercise to be like the least cool thing in the world when like Die Hard, superhero fans and stuff are like, who would win, like Darth Vader or like or John
Yeah,
Wick, and
exactly.
it's like, how many lightsabers? And I'm just like, these are not characters that are doing any of that, so you don't have to worry about these questions. But okay, fine.
I like you taking it seriously.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take it seriously. I mean, but yeah, it's Neo again because again, Neo has
he can
like,
sort of write the
he
reality.
can like
he's in.
change the world.
That's why I'm
around.
saying we should just do John Wick because then there'll actually be
Like more
debate.
competition.
Well, but I
Yeah.
don't know where else she's going with it. I mean, I feel like
but
that-
you're talking rewriting reality.
I have a good,
Yeah.
I have
No,
a
but
good,
I'm
I
saying,
have a
like,
good
maybe
sense.
you're
It's
gonna
going to
be
be
like-
action protagonists.
No,
Like,
but I know. But what I mean, you could be like, Dr. Manhattan.
Okay,
or
well,
like,
next side was Rambo. Does that help?
see,
you?
no, that's
We're fucked.
it's Neo's
We're
going to
so
win.
fucked.
Okay, we'll go with John. Let's go back and go John Wick, and then the second one was
John Wick's gonna beat a lot of these
John
guys,
Wick
too,
or
though.
John McClane?
John Wick. Is
Yeah,
gonna be
John Wick's gonna be
John Wick or Rambo?
Maybe if you're in like
the jungle or something. Let's
like,
just
you
go
could-
Rambo because John Wick's been on the throne for too long.
Yeah.
Rambo or the Terminator?
Well,
I mean,
Terminator.
Well,
yeah.
which Terminator?
I don't know. I think you
let's-
pick one.
Let's
The
go
original like
T8
Terminator. Yeah, yeah.
T800.
Then yeah, Terminator.
We'll go Terminator.
Terminator or RoboCop?
That's a good one. I just think
I
we
mean-
should give a fun answer and say RoboCop, but I think Terminator
I think
wins.
probably still Terminator.
Yeah.
but
Okay,
we're
fine. We'll do
Terminator.
Okay,
Terminator.
Terminator or James Bond?
I wonder if James Bond would be able to like get some sort of like
Are we talking about
device?
But are we talking
from-
about Barbara Broccoli James Bond or Amazon?
No, Barbara Broccoli is
Amazon,
gone. She's
Amazon
gone.
James Bond because
Yeah.
we don't know what Amazon James
That's
Bond
true.
is like.
That's
maybe
true.
maybe he'll have like metal skin and be really cool.
Could be, but no, yeah, I get. Let's mix it up and say James Bond, just
Yeah.
because, like, I feel like there's so much
We're-
gadgetry in that
we're-
maybe he would have some sort of EMP.
Yeah,
something.
sure. Let's do that. That's
Yeah.
That's good logic. We're
Exactly.
just picking the ones that make the game keep going, and
Yes,
it's just the same answer
exactly.
every time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
James Bond or Mad Max?
I mean, again, venue is a.
Yeah. If we're on the
but
open desert,
I mean, I feel like it's still probably James
Well, yeah, 'cause
Bond
James
because
Bond
James
can
Bond
drive
also
really well.
drive.
Yes,
yeah, that's
exactly.
like Mad Max's highest slider is driving.
Okay,
you know?
yeah.
So James Bond.
Okay, James Bond or Laura Croft?
That's funny because she's kind of a version. I'm sure when they were pitching the
Yeah.
video game concept for Tomb Raider, they were like,
James
"It's a female
Bondy
James Bond, and she
vibe.
does spelunking and shit."
Yeah.
Let's
I mean-
let's make it fun. Let's go Lara Croft.
Yeah,
'Cause
we'll
she's
assume they're
some shit
fighting
stuff
in a tomb,
cave
and,
or a
and
tomb.
he's just like he doesn't really know how to do
He
tomb
has
stuff.
no
as
idea how to
much.
raid.
Yeah.
Laura Croft or The Equalizer?
Oh, we do love us.
I'm sorry,
some
but like
Equalizer.
Lara Croft, before she even knew what the fight was starting,
Yeah.
Denzel would have already like thrown something that
and then
bounced
he
off
would
a clock, and
then
like,
he
to-
would go and then
yeah.
he'd go and just have a cappuccino on a little table.
Oh,
and
especially
we'd
this
we'd
Equal-
watch it
Oh.
for 45 minutes.
One of the
We'd
best
love
movie
it.
viewing experiences of my life was we went and saw Equalizer 3 at the Grove at 11 a.m. And,
so
and then we just like
good.
went and like sat by the fountain and like pretended we were in Italy. Because, like
because
the
that-
first like 45 minutes of that
More.
movie
It's
is
an
just
hour.
like, what if Denzel Washington was
Yeah,
in Italy?
what
That's
if
so
just
funny.
Denzel Washington moved to Italy and we were like, we would watch this for 8 hours.
Yeah, I was like mad when the action started.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to just see Denzel like
Yeah.
learning about like the different things.
Yeah,
I'm like, what's
and
this
like the
captain?
village
Okay,
is
okay.
learning that like
Yeah.
he can be helpful, he can be cool. Let's welcome him in. It
Yeah.
felt so good.
Yeah, yeah, we were here
so
for
yeah,
it.
we'll go Equalizer.
I
We'll go Denzel Washington.
love that picture of being at the fountain.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
Like,
we were just like,
buongiorno.
yeah, like, this is Italia. It's so
Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
Okay, I only have 3 left. Equalizer. Oh no, wait. Who'd you choose? Yeah, you
We
chose.
chose
Yeah.
We chose
Equalizer.
Denzel.
The
believe it or
Equalizer
not.
or Hellboy.
I mean, I don't want to leave the Equalizer, but Hellboy is another person who has like supernatural provenance and abilities. He's got a big, heavy hand that might be able to stop Denzel
but-
equalizing him.
But he's Denzel.
Yeah,
I still feel like
yeah. I don't
just
want to.
feel
I don't
like-
want to do Hellboy. Let's go
Yeah.
Okay,
Equalizer.
Equalizer or Blade.
We're just like
not
we're
doing
just who do we want to spend
like
time with?
campaigning.
Yeah.
we're not doing Troll Boy.
Blade. That is a good one.
Wait, sorry, what were the 2?
Equalizer
Blade.
or Blade.
Oh, that's
It's probably Blade.
Ooh, Snipes and
It's-
Denzel. That's
I hate to
that's
say
super
goodbye,
tough,
but-
but yeah. I mean, I just love Blade.
Yeah,
I
me
feel
too.
Like, yeah,
Let's
we're
go
gonna
Blade.
Okay, and the last pairing is Blade or Bruce Lee.
I think we should let Blade win because I think that that's another movie that we connected on early, just to bring this whole
Yes.
conversation full
Also,
circle.
thank you.
And
Absolutely.
I think that that's how we should end it. Give
Yep.
Blade the trophy.
I love it.
But
Blade
with
wins.
like Equalizer's right behind him.
Right.
Amazing,
Denzel's
amazing.
still here
Yeah.
in the room.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
be fair, Blade didn't have to enter the match until the last 2 rounds. So,
Yeah.
You know, I think he had a bit of a head start there, but yeah. Let's go, Wesley.
Sweet. Well, I am going to wrap this up with having you guys just plug your movie again and anything else you want to plug, and then we'll close out.
Sure. Well, everybody go see Novocaine March 14th. We promise it's the most fun you're going to have in movie theaters this year. So get a big group of friends together and go to your local cinema.
Yeah, it's like it is a really fun time at the movies. And again, like we were saying earlier, like we made this movie with an audience in mind, you know, like a physical audience. And I think that, you know, if you're, it's tough to decide what movie you're going to go and see in person. And I think that, you know, some of them you can see at home, that some of them are like really important to see in a theater. And I think that this is the latter, just because it's kind of like, you know, designed to elicit a reaction from a group of people. And I think when you're all hearing each other squirm, it makes the experience that much more fun.
Sweet. Well, I had fun talking to you both. This was a funny episode. I really
Thanks for
enjoyed
having
it.
us.
Yeah, this was great.
This
Thanks
was
for
a
having
blast.
us.
Okay, well, now it's time to get lost.
Good evening.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. To stay in touch, follow our Instagram page at It's Intermission Time and share with your friends. As always, Intermission is produced by Jazeel Chu and Olivia Dean, and of course, hosted by yours truly, Megan Braun. This episode is brought to you by The Synagogue.